Today on First News Exclusive, joining me to discuss the unemployment rates in Nigeria and the solutions is Mr. Amos Emmanuel. He is the chairman and the chief software architect for Programos Software Group. He's also the founder of Innovation Bed Africa. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. My name is Amos Emmanuel. I run Programos Software Group. Programos Software is one of Nigeria's pioneer stockbroking software. Software company that has actually focused on capital markets operations computerization in the last 2 decades.
All right, thank you very much, sir. So, would you say that unemployment in Nigeria is Nigeria's biggest challenge right now?
Well, unemployment obviously is a challenge, and perhaps whether it is the biggest challenge is relative. I think first and foremost is that the term unemployment is what we need to come to terms with, because unemployment in itself is one of those highly disrupted terminologies that we may be very careful in the way we use the word unemployment. I think first and foremost, what we used to see as gainful employment some years in past has suddenly changed, because of certain tech advancements that has actually made the whole world begin to stay shifting to certain brand new, or rather new digital transformations that is actually impacting the world as we speak. More so with the incidents of COVID-19 that actually that actually got into the various economies from last year. Unemployment has actually been challenged much more after COVID and within COVID. And this is actually because some of those things we used to refer to as jobs, for which they were available for people to be matched onto, those jobs may no longer be the kind of jobs we need for now and for the future. So even the jobs in itself, the capacities of people to gainfully be engaged with those jobs have become so disrupted that humanity generally need to address a new normal, what people call the new normal today, that is imbibing the new concepts, but we prefer the better normal. Because even sometimes, because of certain basic and certain very common controversies and all of that, we feel the new normal in itself has been compromised, so that people really have certain reasonable truism around the word unemployment. So, but then it's much beyond what we think we need to take, we keep continuing to take with kids' gloves going forward.
As of December last year, Nigeria's unemployment rate increased by 27.1%. What do you think are the factors that contributed to this increase?
Okay, first is like we said, unemployment issue is actually a global problem, and this is actually as a result of certain vocations that we know, humanity had been plugged into and they were doing before. Most of these services, or rather vocations, or do we say certain areas of capacities of mankind, have become presently highly displaced because of new norms in technical advancements. So as a result of this, what we perhaps were looking at before now as jobs are no longer jobs anymore. It therefore means that while this is happening, brand new opportunities are evolving. But then, do we have people who can actually match these new norms? It therefore becomes important that government needs to engage its citizens to ensure certain advancements in educational or upskilling attributes of what can actually make man match the new opportunities are becoming very important, that people engage it. And I think it's not out of place that we can now begin to see certain increments. So many non-NGOs are doing some very fantastic jobs, that they're actually, creating a whole lot of human capacity development programs to match with the emerging technologies that are taking over the world, and the new economies that are to survive today. They first have to even survive before we can even say we want to begin to rate your unemployment in a positive direction. Now, for Nigeria is actually, according to the Honorable Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami, he is actually focusing on the digital economy. So if you focus on the digital economy, that means there's a whole lot of things that government need to begin to look at. First is a digital economy can never be purchased. It is the citizens, the government, and all the entities within the country that are to come together to put together the kind of set of innovation that is actually to help this country recover. Recovering will actually require that we are doing things in a brand new way. That is where innovation comes in. Most people are very illiterate, and we need to be very careful that revamping the economy or recovering the economy in this particular dispensation will not be based on what we know. It won't be about our literacy level. It will be more about literacy plus innovation. And that is why, like in my own foundation, we are actually moving the United Nations World Summit Awards project across the country. We're also expanding the implementation, which we started last year. We are expanding the implementation of the United Nations ICT for Seeds project, which is actually certain sets of services for which, if the young people can be so close and get to know about it, they perhaps can influence and improve the efficiencies of leadership within their various regions.
So at this point, what skill acquisition would you say is most prevalent that youth should launch into?
Okay, most of this is that whatever it is every citizen or most of the citizens have as a background professional discipline, what people can do, can be a carpenter. What we suddenly need right now is that carpentry today is actually having new norms of doing carpentry. You need to imbibe certain digital transformations of that function, of that vocation.
The digital skill is very important.
It's very important. Yeah. What we were doing before is still very critical, and it's important. But then those things have changed in the ways and manner, the standard of operating procedures will make you benefit from the new emerging digital economy. So everybody, whether you're into trading, whether you're a very small enterprise, you need to move up the ladder away from the brick and mortar, for which is what is very common among the rural areas. You know, the old women and women who do farming, and they still do farming for that subsistence level. There are certain very easy digital concepts now in agriculture that they can be shown what to do, which obviously can improve their bottom line and their lives can be better at that stage. So people who do this are actually creating jobs indirectly. You are actually creating jobs for yourself and making life better for the people that you're actually thinking of uplifting them economically. So it's really not going to be about people sending proposals, employment letters to organizations, because you are going to see brand new enterprises springing up in this country. Within this point to the end of this new year, there will be more enterprises. You're going to have more entrepreneurs, because the spirit is no longer about me looking for a job, but you creating the job, if you know the know-how. So that is going to be the kind of base of employment we're going to see, because job is no longer about 30-day salaries and what have you. The reward for job has changed. Job was that you were employed for 30 days, everybody pays you what you call the wages or salaries, but then if you offer services, that is, we are bringing a value to the table, people pay you as the reward for the value you are actually impacted, which is much more productive. So a whole lot of services that we are going right now is going to shift from the employment of the olden days into the kind of service orientation with digital transformation that ends you the service based on a match of value with the reward you get.
Okay, in the 2020 approved budget, about 400 billion naira was allocated to special intervention programs, which include Empower, job creation programs, and others. Would you say it's out of place for youth to look up to the government for job creations and all that, considering the digital marketing skills that are available?
Well, I think job creation is a two-way thing. The best government can do is that environment for youth to really crack at what they can do for productivity. But then government in itself need to understand what it is for them to create jobs. Creating jobs by government will require that certain services. Creating jobs by government may not necessarily mean that government keeps employing, because sometimes you look at the workforce of government and you ask yourself, what are they doing? Because most of the time what you hear is perhaps government is owing salaries for 8 months, 9 months, 10 months and the rest. But who is asking, what is the service quality, what's the productivity quality of the labor force in government? So it won't be about human beings, quite frankly. So it really won't be about what government or how many government is able to employ. You remember recently there is news about is this certain recruitments across 774 local governments?
Yes.
Are you know what I'm saying? For me, it's just a political showcase, because it really wouldn't mean this is what would have lifted up or perhaps improved unemployment in its real sense, in its real sense of productivity, because it should really mean that not just that I'm engaging 774 people across the country for a particular set of services, but they must be very productive. They have to go through certain disciplines or capacity development that will make them to actually create what they were supposed to be engaged for. So, but then, if you hear a particular language of just filling a room with some people for certain purposes as mere nomenclature and not productivity, it goes to negate the essence of development in its entirety. So we think government needs to actually provide the enabling environment that its citizens need to look at the productive services or activities that they can grow by. Look at even providing power, for instance. If you cannot even provide power for the citizens, how do you think people who have things and know of what to do will be enabled to be able to do that? A government who is actually, not minding that they have to provide some of those basic things may not be helping on employment in its real sense. It does not matter how much they put on ground. So much money has just been dropped, or rather been funded, been budgeted, but obviously in the end these things have no impact, they have no effect, and it's just for them to just steal the money and get the money misappropriated to things that were never
in a nutshell, would you say that the Empower program has been a success or not?
Well, I wouldn't say it's not a success. But you see, its management will be very, very important, because the purposes for which Empower was supposed to help people, one, it shouldn't just be by mere distribution of the national cake. It should just be that if I give you the value that I've given to you, there should be some mode of, some mode of administration of the funding to ensure that whoever gets those values are actually using the funds for the purposes for which they got the money. But to be frank with you, certain political settings or understanding is just that they're just sharing money to making people feel it's a palliative that is just a general thing. And of course, the word palliative came as a result of COVID-19. There was a reason for the word palliative. Empower should be like an empowerment. But guess what? People who are in leadership, who really cannot manage the economy very well, cannot empower any youth in its real sense, because an economy that is not wealthy, sincerely means it may be having some issues of irresponsibility and mismanagement of its resources, for which, when they say they are empowering, they are actually not powering anybody in the net impact of what that activity could be. And this is actually showing by the way they shared the palliatives during the pandemic, very recklessly, unguided, highly irresponsible, that till today people still speak about what is happening there. But where there are lessons for tomorrow, it's a different thing altogether.
Yeah, so the lockdown actually caught almost everybody unaware, and the second phase of the lockdown is looming, and we cannot say that we are not prepared. It will not be an excuse at this time. So what should we expect, and what are the measures that should be on ground considering the looming lockdown?
You see, there's something about an activity of today could be a lesson of the past. When you say machine learning, artificial intelligence in IT, information communication, some of these emerging terminologies, all of these are not just out of the blues. People really have to look at what has happened before, what has been the trend, what could be the possible outcomes. The Nigerian government need to really look at what their processes are, what their ethics description, what they are, and of course ensure that they are doing things that are positively directing this economy the right way. If they are on course doing that, our tomorrow can be better. Because we talk about lockdown. In so many other economies right now, they are seriously locked down. But we have not started, perhaps in due course, depending on what the standard or the status of the impact of COVID is in our own environment could be. But we shouldn't rule out the fact that lockdown was essential because we are trying to manage its spread of the problem. And here we are, the same attitude we were as at the point we had this emergency last year is almost the same state we are here. When some of the medical facilities that are available to cope these problems may not even be there. They are getting too expensive. And even the medical team or the frontline workers at this stage are still not properly attended to. So it therefore still means that we really don't have that true attitude to correcting or ameliorating the public health care problem of the citizens. If this is not so, then please, I think we rather have a much more chaos with an additional wave of COVID-19 in the country. And because don't forget that certain controversies are already existing, and we need to actually, as a country, be able to come to terms with what works for us. If it is that we need to look at inwards as to what can help cure, or rather help put this management of COVID properly, we should have been on a very high level in research right now, that our medical team ought to have been advising the government and not politicians talking to medical team, as we tend to see in the political system that we are hearing. So I think there's still a gap that if it's not properly handled, we may be having a challenge with upcoming wave of COVID-19, and for which we all know lockdown may not be the proper solution because of the level of poverty in the town, because we had an experience of what happened.
What do companies and businesses need to know to equip themselves for the second phase of the lockdown?
Well, it is actually important that companies need to follow the basic guidelines, the basic public health guidelines as provided by the World Health Organizations, even though there might be a whole lot of whatever with them. But then at the same time, also try to see how they could partner with government to help, because government needs a lot of help. I could remember particularly intervening with the group of the FinTech 1000, who actually offered to help the NCDC during the crisis of the pandemic. And we all know that we always put it that government needs the people to tell how to go, where to go, and how to do things most of the time. And that is why the private sector has to always be there to ensure they engage the government. So I think companies really need to be there to show government what they need to do. Take, for instance, part of what we are doing in the present dispensation, that we had to begin to engage the youths across the country. All we're trying to do is to ensuring that youths get to know what the term digital economy means, because it's still strange. And yet, digital economy has been there for several years, and we keep talking about it as if it's just a word in the dictionary. But then there are certain basic knowledge that the people, the citizens, need to know about digital economy before they can even be a part of it. Like I said, we're not going to purchase it. We are going to imagine, we are going to actually evolve a digital economy by the people. So people have to play a participatory role in governance so that we can bring this to happen together.
Okay, so as a business owner, in what ways did the lockdown affect you?
Okay, of course, which is just general. Most of the time, the lockdown actually caused our services not to be that mobile anymore on the roads or something. Like you having to access a customer that is in need of a technical support or thereabout. But then that was also a great lesson, because we've actually come to terms with that fact that all our services as we speak is 100% over the cloud. So our solution also is cloud-based, that we support our customers within the country and outside the country. So this has actually brought about a new thinking in software development and its maintenance support business, because we really don't need to be on the road or too close to a lot of people, but yet jobs are done under remote workspaces.
Be created.
These are brand new. In fact, millions of jobs are getting created by this means, because housewives are working remotely from their bedrooms, and they are actually on international job networks. And these are brand new. If you check the internet today, jobs are actually happening that you're actually not looking for jobs or rendering services that is within your own locality. There are international work networks. The language of outsourcing that used to be strange before, outsourcing has become a major opportunity for youths across Africa and even Nigeria. We have freelance developers that are from their bedroom offering services to people, and they are paid in foreign exchange. across different networks. These are new services. So this is actually the opportunities of the COVID-19 in itself. And so as business owners, you have to try to see anything that you have to do that can at least take advantage of the internet. So you can actually use the internet to unlock the challenges that COVID-19 may have brought to the economy.
Okay, so what is your advice to the federal government concerning the unemployment rates, and the second phase of the lockdown that may soon happen?
The federal government has to imbibe digital concepts. They have to imbibe digital technologies in all that they do. Our government needs to imbibe open government and citizens' engagement. People have to participate with whatever government is doing. Citizens have to enjoy the services being rendered by government. It does not have to remain on the side roads, keeping thugs on the road for them to collect monies that they in the end never get to the coffers of the purse of government. So you see, digital services will allow for transparency, just like the TSA. The TSA innovation that has actually allowed government to be able to domesticate different accounts of ministries and parastatals in very unique forms, and they are properly managed and they are a lot more transparent. Government can see its monies. As against certain confusion where you think certain human beings have to be on the road for. I think even government in itself really need to look at e-government practice. E-governance is a major principle of a digital economy. And you really can't be doing that council kind of work where you keep thousands on the road and things aren't transparent. There's no digital services. Up till today, government cannot know what is the level of poverty in the country, or what is it when they get some of the monies, how and what can they put the monies for the benefit of its citizens. Look at the kind of funding we see every year on infrastructure. When you are creating infrastructure today, you don't create deaf and dumb infrastructure. Your infrastructure has to be digital, has to be enabled, and has to be available for you to even be able to automate some of these services so that we're actually advancing, and it will be easy for you to promote what you have put money today, and not just that you have put a whole lot of things developing infrastructure that in a year or two they'll become obsolete. So I think government need to be close to the acts of the United Nations Agency for Seeds to ensure that they need to imbibe computer-aided strategic planning so that they can actually use these services by everybody who is an executive in public office, so that we have public service innovation. In the same way, they might be literate, but please let's have public service innovation around these administrators or who call themselves leaders, either as local environment councillors, local government chairmen, and the rest of them. Even the president has to be digitally aware, and not just the promotion of just staying in front of the computer for showcasing that we sometimes will see. The president should be demanding for digitally spooled data on any fact and data that he requests from this office. The Nigerian Bureau of Statistics has to hook up with the world bodies, the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, and ensure that this country's data is adequately connected and updated on a regularly basis so that this country can be properly, the right information about this country can be properly used by these external research databases. As we speak, we have a whole lot of gaps. And this is actually part of the things that we are making moves for in the ICT for Seeds for Nigeria, to ensure that the Nigerian Bureau for Statistics Office can hook up with the world bodies to ensure our data is set to be correct so that the right things can be heard about this country, because most of the time the data about Nigeria can be very stale, and these things may be published by the World Bank and very responsible World Economic Forum databases and some other institutional databases, which may not be correct for the country.
All right, thank you so much, sir. We are really enlightened by everything you said today.
We've heard it all from our guests today. The government should embrace digital awareness and transparency. This has been First News Exclusive. I am Kelechi Chukwuma.